Good morning. Our hand today is going to be Jack 10 of spades. We are second act. We have a limper, and then it is me, and I ISO. So I'm putting the limper up something like this. He's got 39% total VPIP. Early position is 50%, with limping in about 33% of the time, raising first in about 11% of the time. We're looking at raising first in. Yeah, so let me adjust this. So maybe that's about raising first in, and then we're gonna have to narrow this down just a bit. We'll leave that. I think that's probably about right. Something like this. I'm gonna assume he would have raised pre-flop with all of those hands. Maybe even sevens, and then he's limping with everything else. So with that range, we could easily just isolate, and this includes our optional range as well. I just think we isolate with a hand that's fairly weak. And what ends up happening is that we get two calls, including the ISO, and I think, or the limper, and I think the limper is probably just calling with everything there. Now these two players, this guy's playing 39% over 172 hands. He's in early mid position. He's playing about 25%. That's probably the call. When we look at three bets, yeah, he's had some three bets. However, the hands that he's shown down have all been queens plus ace queen, and that includes his four betting hands too. So I think those are going to be his raising range, and then to kind of get to about the 20% range, 22% range, we're including suited aces, suited kings, and the rest of the pocket pairs and so forth. Next guy's going to be similar, but it's going to be a little bit tighter. I narrowed him down. His VPIP is tighter. We do have a note that says he has played in a spot like this, 9-8 suited. Maybe that is this hand. I don't know. But, you know, overall on the cutoff, he's playing 23%, and he calls 27%, 6 out of 22. Now, again, if that's like 5 out of 22, it's going to change your numbers. I think it's kind of reasonable to say pocket pair, some of these suited connectors, suited aces, broadways. Just, you know, you're going to be basically in position. You're going to see a flop. So we see the flop of 9-3-2 with two hearts. Not that great. We are four-way. We should be playing fairly straightforward at this point. So it's check to us, and I check behind, and I think that's reasonable for our hand. I think when we break it down and we think about what do we have here, I think a flush draw could be used as a semi bluff. I think we are doing at least top pair, possibly some of the over pairs. So that's at 33%, and there's going to be no way to balance this. So that leads me to think that we're probably not going to be c-betting everything. So I think maybe we're going to have like aces and kings in our checking range. You know, those are less likely to be drawn out on. You know, if an ace or a king comes, and so like all the ace x hands or king x hands, we don't want to see an ace or a king, so we can bet with the 10 jacks queens, try to generate some folds. And maybe queens are about 50%. Maybe sometimes we bet them, sometimes we don't. Top pair hands, I do think we bet. And that's still at 20.87. And then we would have to include maybe some of these two card backdoor flush draws hands as kind of our bluff. Bluffing range. And maybe some of our overcards. Maybe something just like that. So that kind of gets us a 62% c-betting range, and that's probably it. But I didn't do that. I didn't see that. So we will take these out. let's change this to, so we could conceivably have, let's add the queens. We could still have an overpair hand, and you do have to watch on those hands. We've got pocket pair less than the top card. We've got no made hands, but we're going to take out our flush draw there, and I think a 2-card backdoor flush draw. So that's going to be your checking range. Check doesn't mean anything for him. Same thing with villain 5. Villain 7, this guy checked, so I think at that point we're probably going to eliminate the set. I think sets would bet. I think overpairs would bet. I think top pair just kind of depends on what he has. I kind of think like maybe ace 9 would bet, king 9 would bet. It's a pretty dry board. Yeah, I think ace 9, king 9 would probably bet, but the others might not. They might just check to see what the turn comes out, or what the turn brings. I think that includes like flush draw and everything. So at least him, we can narrow it down just a little bit. Turns a 5. 5 of spades doesn't improve. I do think if we had an ace, we might bet here. Like continue barreling or whatever. So villain 4 checks here. Yeah, I'm basing this on, I think villain 4 possibly could be betting. I mean, he looks fairly passive. We're going to leave everything in this range, and then it's on us. And at this point, I think I just took a stab at it as a complete bluff. I think here we would start to bet our overpair. I think that's 21%. We don't really have anything else. I think our pocket pair below the top card maybe could be bet. Again, it's just kind of, we think the hearts are going to call. We think we might get called by like ace, king, king, queen, possibly. But no one's suggesting that they like it. So, if we do all of those hands, no way. So I'm just looking at hands that I don't think would be able to win if it gets checked down. So I think all of those, I think the ace high actually has some showdown value. We now have some draws, and maybe those are ones that we can bet. So 1-card gut shots, maybe we bet, but it's still going to be like way too much, way unbalanced. So maybe these we bet. Ace king we bet, and so forth. So this was just, I believe this was just a bluff on my part, just to see if anybody wants to stick with it. So I bet this guy folds, didn't really have anything. This guy calls. I think his call is at least, I think a straight's going to be raising here. And I do think a set's going to raise. So I think we're just dealing with maybe these pair hands. Top pair, maybe one of those undercards. And then flush draw, open ender, maybe a gut shot. Something like that. I think is what he's calling with. This other guy calls, I think the same thing. I think a straight and a set would have check raised at some point. I do think a top pair maybe could be in there. I think, one of these middle pairs. I think with another card, I'm going to probably include the 6. I think the gut shot can work. And like middle pair, like at the 7-5, like those, the ace 5, I think could be the gut, could be a card. Flush draw, open ender, maybe the 2-card gut shot as well. So we'll give him something like that. And for us, again, this is just pure bluff. I think an overpair would be in there along with some of my bluff hands. And yeah, I'm gonna say I have no hope to win anything. So maybe I think this was probably just a bad bluff. So I think I got lucky. I hit a 10. So villain 4 checked. You can see I don't really have a 10. with all of the bluff range, I think it's actually pretty good not to have an ace here because it means the other villains might have an ace. So with our 10, I think it's reasonable to go ahead and bet. No one's really shown any strength. I think 9's going to call us, and we're going to get some value from the 9. So when we bet, this guy calls. I think he's calling with these middle pairs. Yeah, of course, a top pair now. He's going to call, but the middle pair at least, he's going to be calling. And if he doesn't believe us, he may be calling with those. So, it's one of those things where it could be a little bit more over 50% that we beat. Yeah, a bit more than 50% that we beat. I think we go for a little bit of value. And then villain 4 folds. And I think here he was probably on a draw, one of those cut shots. So we see the hand, he shows 9-8. And I think that was the hand. So we checked it and then check call, or called 50%, called 50%. That was the hand. So I'll admit I got lucky. I think I played it okay with not doing the c-bet. It's a pretty dry board for my hand. Yeah, I'm gonna have some semi bluffs on it, but this hand does not fall into it. No one was representing any sort of strength. This guy would be most likely to bet if he had something. He didn't, which is a little surprising. I think that's why I probably took the note. It's like, wow, you had a top pair, it was checked to you, and you didn't bet at all. He could have easily have bet the flop. I wouldn't have called, and then he could bet the turn, and it would have been a hard call for anybody at that point to bet 2 on this board. You have to give him credit for either an overpair or a 9 at that point. But I bet the turn just as a bluff, rightly or wrongly, and I managed to get lucky and hit the 10, and I got some value out of it. So I'll take it. Again, I probably shouldn't have bet this as a bluff. I think there are some other hands to value bet, but not including an ace-x in my bluffing range allows these other opponents to have an ace. And I do think with how loose they are, they could have easily have called with an ace-2, ace-3, maybe even just like an ace-queen, ace-jack type hand, just hoping for that gut shot. So hopefully you enjoy this hand. If you do, you can look tomorrow for another one.